I want to talk to you people about consent. I my last video was my message to Rush Limbaugh, where I went off for like 10 minutes on Rush. And I think duly, after watching the video, I was a little tough. But here's the thing. Nothing I said was wrong. It comes down to one little issue. Whether you like it or not, human beings like sex. That's it. Human beings like sex. Some people like it in a traditional way, where it's a man and a woman and they like to have sex. Some women like to give men oral sex. Some men like to give the woman oral sex. Some women like anal sex. Some men like anal sex. Thing is, they like sex. Some men like to have sex with other men. Some men prefer transgender people. Some women prefer sex with other women. Some women prefer sex with transgender people. Some prefer to have multiple partners, sometimes separately, sometimes simultaneously. Sometimes they like doing it in groups. Sometimes they like doing things that aren't sex but still are within the realm of sex, such as bondage or spanking or other types of play. All of these things, all of them, only need one thing: consent. That's it. We have gone far, far past the time where we didn't, that we didn't do anything sexual until we were married. First off, let me tell you, that's a myth. It's a total fucking myth. Sex was never just a thing that a man and a woman did within the bonds of marriage. This is a myth. Total, complete, absolute myth. If you believe that, please reorientate your gray matter to this simple idea. People like sex. You can simply look back through history and see that people have been having sex outside of marriage forever. Forever. Prostitution is called the oldest business in the world for a reason. Because people figured out, hey, I can give money and somebody will have sex with me. Here's the thing. If you believe in any way, shape, and or form that any kind of sexual act is done without the consent of the other person, and I'm not talking about you look at a photo and masturbate. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about looking at porn and masturbating. It's not. Okay? If you do something that physically you touch another person without their consent, you are breaking the law. Simple. Simple rule. Do I have permission from that other human being to do and insert whatever it is you're about to do? the answer is yes, then guess what? You have permission to do it. If not, you are breaking the law. It could be as simple as assault. If you are touching them in their private areas, on their breast, their butt, you are committing sexual assault. It's that simple. That simple. Let me make that very clear. It's that simple. And if your brain cannot get across this idea that people since forever have been having sex, and it was only because of places like churches and governments that forced people into this moronic idea that sex was only between a man and a woman with the concept only of having a child, you're wrong. The government, the churches, made us think that way. And we have liberated ourselves from that. We have liberated ourselves. There was this thing in the 1960s called the sexual revolution. I don't remember if you've read about it in history or if you happen to be old enough to have lived through it. But you know what happened? People kind of got to the point where they said, you know what? The government and the churches, they're wrong. They're wrong. Simply, they're wrong. We like sex. We want to have sex. We have had forms of protection. Like birth control. For a long time. I am a very sexual human being. Obviously, I can just reach over here on top of my desk. I have a little bowl that's full of condoms. And I've got lube over there. I've got other sexual toys over here and over here. I've got other types of play toys back there. I'm a very sexual human being. I love sex. I talk about sex. I talk about the things you can do with sex. I have sex. Make that clear. Even at my age and my weight and all of my other things, I have a lot of sex. Compared to the average guy of my age, oh hell yeah, I have a lot more sex than they do. But here's the thing. Not once in my entire life have I ever done it without consent. I understand if somebody is inebriated, they're not able to give consent. Therefore, I do not pursue it. If they have given it prior to being inebriated, that's a different subject. And one I'm willing to have if somebody wants to have it. But if you cannot understand consent, then stop it. Just spend time going to a therapist and talking about your issues, because the reality is if you haven't already been caught, you will be. We have a presidential candidate who right now, as of this moment, the moment I am filming this, is having to deal with these issues, is going to wind up in court over these issues. Consent is everything. No matter what you do, no matter what you plan to do, talk to the person. Negotiate what you want to do. Get consent. And if you're playing with some of the higher end stuff, get a safe word. And after you have it, after you play or have sex, take care of them afterwards because it's emotionally heavy. It's physically heavy. Spend a couple minutes or an hour cuddling with them and holding them and talking with them and find out, was everything okay? Because the thing about it is, if you do that, if you get those little 5 things, guess what happens? The chances of you being able to do it again greatly increase. But out of all of these things, all 5 of these things, the one that matters most is consent. As long as you have consent, you have agreed to it, they have agreed to it, then there's not going to be any issues. Keep that in mind, and everything will be okay.